Good afternoon. This is Media Center, Ukraine, Odesa. Our next briefing is dedicated to Defense Tech Cluster Brave1. In particular, grant opportunities for developers and the team's focus on the Army of Electronic Warfare and robots. Our speaker is Natalia Kushnerska, head of the Brave1 project. She's with us online today. Good afternoon. Can you share more details about Army of Electronic Warfare and robots? Good afternoon. I would like to welcome everyone. Defense tech is the priority for our country at the moment. And we try to help developers with their products. And first, I would like to speak about the results of our activities. 1 month ago, we announced our project. We made it public. More than 460 products have been registered in our platform. 170 have received Brave1 status, meaning they are needed to our army, and they could be the part of the procedure to make them available for the army, or this means that they should prepare their documents and their interesting products, and they are needed by the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. And we believe that this is a great result. We continue developing these areas. If there are still developers who have not joined our platform but are willing to do so, we would like to call you. And the grant program Brave1 has already been launched. 29 grants have been issued to the general amount of around 480,000 USDs, and 26 projects for more than $500,000 are at the final stage, and we believe that in the nearest weeks we will reach $1 million of the United States dollars in finances. After military expertise, when we understand that these products are needed, and after developers provide all invoice information and undergo financial expertise, such projects could be submitted for our grant. And our task is to give $25,000 for them to perform all R&D tasks to improve their capacity, their production, etc. So for us, the main task is to create R&D products or solutions that can be further on purchased by the Ministry of Defense and used in the combat zone. Our task is to have as many solutions as possible. As for our current focus that you've asked me about, we understand this is not only about drones, but these are the projects related to data processing, electronic surveillance, some other technologies related to the artificial intelligence, medtech, different types of logistics means. But now we understand that in the combat zone, we still have two important areas, which are Army of Electronic Warfare and robots, meaning the land robotized platforms. More than 70 products have been registered at our websites. 25 have been already tested, and we know that they are needed and they are efficient. And now we have been finalizing the procedure, allowing to be taken into exploitation and to be codified accordingly, and they will be sent then to the front line. And we also work with other robotized systems which are ready to the mentioned procedure. As for the Army of Electronic Warfare, and we know that our enemy is quite powerful. in this domain. At the first, we're talking about detection and protection by electronic warfare, meaning not only equipment but our manpower from enemies' drones. And we also need to develop technologies which could be resistant to electronic warfare of our enemy. This will improve our capacity, will make the usage of our technologies at the front line more efficient, and will be able to protect our equipment from enemies' attacks. This is really very interesting, but I'd like to ask you about some practical solutions that are already there at the front line when it comes to electronic warfare and robots. Could you share with us details that some applications that have already gone through the whole line of bureaucratic procedures to be sent to the front line? As for the land robotized complexes, there is a broad range of their usage. They could be used for logistics, for demining, and for deliveries. But they could also used to attack and to be used on the ground. As for electronic warfare, we're very happy that now there is the understanding of the Ministry of Defense when it comes to technical specifications for such a trench, for example, trench electronic warfare. And, for example, electronic warfare and robots of our enemy also cover antenna that we should also deal with. So you are now talking about the means of protected communication. You've mentioned demining, which is a very important area when it comes both to humanitarian demining and demining at the front line. Do you have any applications with such projects? Could they be efficient under the difficult conditions that we have been facing now? We opened our activities for demining, and there are more than 10 different solutions registered at our platform that have been assessed by the General Staff and could be used for military demining. We have also opened the area for humanitarian demining, and we understand that there are other requirements, and we should develop methodology for such projects, because now in Ukraine there are no ready-made solutions and requirements for demining when it comes to technologies. So as we understand this, there should be heavy metal used for demining. We should also have technologies like scanners to identify mines remotely. The third area, this is program software that will be able to map and record information received. And the fourth area, small robotized systems and complexes that can be efficiently used for demining. And of course, we have manual devices that are used now, but our main focus is state-of-art technologies involving as less people as possible. Thank you. We talked to you around 2 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, and back then I understood that the idea of the cluster, Brave1, is to simplify the whole way through for the developments, for them to be used at the front line as quick as possible. A week ago, we invited Yaroslav Ginchar, which is the founder of the aerial surveillance project. And Yaroslav told us it is very important to develop the global concept to use UAVs. And as soon as we get such concept, it will be easier to provide solutions to different units in line with the requirements and also the technical procurement of the armed forces of Ukraine. So the question is about the solutions that are now being sent to the front line with the help of your cluster. Will they be the part of the concept development and of the development of the concept for procurement of the general staff and other defense forces? You're perfectly right. And our first task was to develop the market for such solutions, but now we understand that we, on the one hand, need a concept, and on the other hand, we need proper training and planning of different operations to make them really efficient. So we should have a complex, a comprehensive approach. We know about several successful operations that took place last week, the week before last week, but they were successful just due to the proper planning of using different types of means and devices. The same could be told about terrestrial robotized complexes. Different robotized complexes can be used as UAVs in different situations with a different level of efficiency. And the same could be told about electronic warfare and the development of any army, the army of electronic warfare and robots, is impossible about doctrine. And I'm not talking about some classic pile of documents and procedures, but I'm talking about the concept of proper utilization. And this should be a must, and it should be used in our country together with the procurement of different solutions. Yes, and this is actually what is my question about. Can your development solutions become a part of this doctrine? For example, it could be UAVs that are submitted to different units who are well aware of how to use them properly with due consideration of their capacity. But Yaroslav and other experts believe that we could achieve full capacity when such technical means become a part of the mentioned doctrine. Is this also the part of work of your cluster? So not only to supply to the armed forces of Ukraine, the special operation forces or National Guard such means, but also to make these means a part of the doctrine that could be further supplied without even involvement of your cluster? I believe that everyone should be involved in their own task. We don't have experience or expertise for the development of such a doctrine. This should be a task of the military, experienced military, depending on the type of forces and operations. We can use different solutions in a different way depending on the tasks. So we can provide us much information as possible about successful and unsuccessful application, but the doctrine should be developed by the military. So this is the question to the general staff, who's responsible for such operative planning. Yes, and recent months have become known for using sea drones. Do you have any applications for such developments? Because we have the open source information, and we know that such sea drones are difficult, very different. They are constructed by different groups and companies. Are there any applications for the development of such sea drones through your cluster, Brave1, to make this work systematized? Yes. Some teams have applied through our platform, and others have not applied, but we are aware of them because the Brave1 is not only the platform for providing grants. We create the whole ecosystem, and we understand for such teams it is better not to become public, but we're well aware of their work, of their solutions, and at our level, without any publicity, we can help them with their needs and requirements. That's why our platform is very important. We know about different activities of different teams and companies, and we can share contacts of different stakeholders involved. And the last question about the plans of your cluster for the next month or 2 months. Are there any events that you have already planned, or do you have any objectives at the international market, for example, to find European developers, to establish contacts between European and Ukrainian developers? Could you share more details? Yes, of course. We have a lot of different plans for the development of other armies in other areas, but we cannot share this information publicly. We should better share results in several months, in 2 months, and hopefully I will be able to share with you some updates about our work in other areas. As for the international cooperation, thank you very much for your questions. We have a huge track for the cooperation with international companies. We studied their expertise, their readiness to cooperate with us at the level of international and Ukrainian private companies, the companies which are not state-owned ones. We are also, in our country, we are planning the forums of the defense industries. Perhaps we'll be involved in the defense tech panel. And we have also planned several business meetings involving representatives of international and Ukrainian companies. We have already good experience of cooperating with the Czech, French, Polish, and Canadian companies. So this is also a huge area of our work. This is important for Ukrainian developers to have access to international components and technologies, for them to be involved in their solutions and their technologies. And secondly, when international companies are ready for the partnership with Ukraine, and we can show the possibilities for those companies to bring their solutions to our country and to work in our country. And I would like to remind that our main focus is to provide support to Ukrainian companies. And there are some world technologies that are not here in Ukraine, and we still need time, and we are ready to take ready-made solutions to make them part of our Ukrainian solutions. But our focus is to develop independent, powerful, efficient defense tech in Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you very much for being with us today. That was Natalia Kushnerska, the head of the Brave1 project. It would be great if we could invite you in a month or 2 to share the details of your work. Thank you. Together. And we'll say together to be victorious. Thank you. Our next briefing will be at 1:30. That will be dedicated to relocation of business to the west of Ukraine, in particular to Ivano-Frankivsk. So we'll discuss the support of IDPs and the creation of business community in Ivano-Frankivsk and in the region. Stay tuned.